Aficionados, this is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Today on the docket, we have a Jeffrey Epstein update, who's been visiting Chris Watts, a comparison of the Colorado Springs shooting to that of the South Carolina Scott Walker shooting. We're going to talk about one of the worst human beings on the face of the earth. The dumb criminal of the week is back, so let's talk about it. Crime Talk aficionados, this is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. If you like the channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up. And please leave a comment because we do read the comments. First on the docket, Jeffrey Epstein. We mentioned his name. YouTube completely demonetizes any of our videos. Did we start this channel to create lots of money? No. I assure you, whatever I've made in a 1-month period, I can usually make in 1 day doing legal work. This is more about trying to educate the people out there on the criminal process. So we're going to talk about it anyway because it is important. For those who don't know, Jeffrey Epstein is the disgraced billionaire pedophile who trafficked in young girls as young as 14 and has a list of friends that go from the Prince of England to presidents. And a lot of people much lower than that, but still very powerful and influential that were his friends that went on his Lolita Express. Well, Jeffrey Epstein gets arrested on a case in the federal Southern District of New York, even though he had pled guilty to a charge in Florida some 8 years earlier that was supposed to resolve everything, which was a gift. Well, Jeffrey Epstein's in jail. He tries to commit suicide. He fails miserably. He then apparently asks, or his attorneys ask for him to be taken off of suicide watch, and the detention center somehow agrees with that. I can tell you, normally when somebody's on suicide watch, a doctor, a psychiatrist has to interview these individuals to make sure they're not a danger to themselves. Well, about a week after that suicide attempt, Jeffrey Epstein, who's meeting with his attorneys on a daily basis, apparently very active in his case, suddenly winds up dead on a Saturday morning in his cell, a cell all by himself, a cell that has sheets in it, a cell that has no cameras, a cell where the correctional officers were reportedly supposed to be checking on him for every 30 minutes. We now know those correctional officers fell asleep, altered the logbooks to actually show that they were making rounds and did not do their job. The world wakes up last Saturday that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Imagine how surprised we all were. Well, imagine how surprised Jeffrey Epstein was that he was committing suicide. A lot of theories started to run around. How is he not being monitored? How is he not being watched? How could this have happened when the marshals are the ones, the correctional officers are holding him in pretrial release and that they're supposed to be protecting him so that he can go to court, have justice rendered in his case? Well, autopsy is done. They find that Jeffrey Epstein has several broken bones in his neck. Additionally, he has a hyoid bone, which is right below the Adam's apple, which is broken. Now, is it possible that the hyoid bone was broken because of a suicide? Apparently, he hung himself from a sheet from the rack, from the bunk bed, and that was done. But normally it takes a lot of pressure to break the hyoid bone. I had a strangulation case. I learned everything about the hyoid bone. I learned about how much pressure it would take, and the experts said it takes a lot of force consistent with strangulation. So now medical doctors are speculating that where did the force come from? You're not going to get that from the suicide, from the strangulation, hanging himself in the cell. However, we don't know all the details, so hopefully that information will be released soon. But clearly, the government, by botching his supervision, providing this information as it relates to the fractured bones, and without some further explanation as to the actual manner of death, whether it's going to be ruled a suicide or a homicide, leaves great speculation out there for everybody. On another note related to the Jeffrey Epstein matter, Miss Maxwell, the personal assistant to Mr. Epstein, the one who would coordinate, usually bringing these young girls to Mr. Epstein and his friends, no one could find her. But yet yesterday, she was found in an In-N-Out Burger in California reading a book. Miss Maxwell was seen reading The Book of Honor, The Secret Lives and Deaths of CIA Operatives. So although Miss Maxwell is an alleged despicable person for trafficking with humans, at least she does have some good taste going to In-N-Out Burger. Let's face it, they have perfected the single and the double, and you get nothing else. All right, the next matter on the docket is, let's talk about Chris Watts. I know a lot of people are sick of it. Other people can't get enough of it, but this is relevant because there's lots of people that have been concerned that people would profit, possibly even Chris Watts, from his story. Well, apparently, now this is a self-reported post, but a woman by the name of Cheryl Lynn Cadle, who is apparently a senior partner relations associate at Bible League International. She states, quote, "I'm excited to let everyone know my book will be out on the stands in early October, Letters from Christopher. The book is the detailed story straight from Christopher about the murders of his pregnant wife and 2 little girls last August. I have been visiting him in prison, and he writes me some letters with many things he has never told the authorities. Some things are shocking. Please help me spread the news and pick up my book. It will be sold everywhere in bookstores, Kindles, and Amazon. Thanks for your support." The organization that Miss Cadle works for, Bible League International, and they state on their website that they equip the under-resourced church globally by providing Bibles, biblical resources, and training to transform lives worldwide through God's Word. Well, I guess that's honorable work indeed. The question is, would you buy her book to see what Chris Watts has to say? Or is this just a big hoax? The question is, will you buy her book? Now, the next thing on the docket is a shooting that took place here in my state, and specifically down in Colorado Springs. We put the video up yesterday. We'll provide a link to that. But it is somewhat disturbing and raises a lot of questions. Colorado Springs police officers receive a report of 2 individuals that may have attempted to menace and or commit a robbery of somebody, and they may have a firearm. The officers pull up, stop the people on the street. Officers tell them, the 2 young men, to keep their hands up. One of the individuals is a young man by the name of Devon Bailey. As the officers are basically going to approach, put them in cuffs, more than likely for officer safety, Devon Bailey runs. The other individual stands still and presumably is arrested. Before Mr. Bailey runs, the officers have the individual's name. They know his identification. It's on the body cam. When Mr. Bailey runs is the million-dollar question, and that is, was that a justified shooting or not? The Colorado Springs Police Department released that video to put it out there. Colorado Springs Police is kind of saying that the officer was justified because the officer believed that Mr. Bailey had a gun. It's unclear whether it looked like he was running and trying to pull up his pants or if he was actually trying to pull out a firearm. A firearm was recovered from the scene, presumably from Mr. Bailey. Now, the family wants an independent investigation to be done because I'm sure most people know in this particular situation, you have the district attorney in the jurisdiction where this took place, assisting in the investigation with the police department, investigating one of their own. That's normally standard police procedure in most jurisdictions. It's very interesting in cop shooting type cases. Once that takes place, the police officers get there, Basically, the Police Protective Association, which is basically the police union, send lawyers down. The officers get to review everything that they have before everything that is known, i.e. reports, witness interviews, things of that nature, before that officer has to make a statement. Wouldn't it be nice if all criminal defendants get to see that information before they decide to make a statement? Most don't, unless they wisely keep their mouth shut during questioning. The family of Mr. Bailey wants an independent investigation, and they want the matter to go to the grand jury so a group of citizens can decide whether charges should be brought. Right now, it's simply in the hands of the district attorney, Dan May. Dan May is also the district attorney who is prosecuting the Patrick Frazee matter regarding the disappearance of Kelsey Barrett. The Bailey family has hired one of the top civil rights firms here in the state of Colorado, and their attorneys of Kilmer Lane have recovered tens of millions of dollars for cases less severe than this. My prediction is the officers are not charged, and the city of Colorado Springs writes a big check to the Bailey family. Now let's compare this to the case of Scott Walker in South Carolina a few years ago. That case was also a situation where the officer pulled over Mr. Walker. Needless to say, Mr. Walker didn't feel like it was a good day to go to jail and ultimately ran. The officer then shoots Mr. Walker in the back. He ultimately dies. Officer Schlager is charged criminally with murder because he was an unarmed man running away. We'll put links to both videos at scottreisch.com so that people can look at them and make their decisions. And while you're there, why don't you sign up at scottreisch.com for our weekly newsletter? The next matter on the docket is probably one of the worst human beings ever. An individual by the name of Dion Austin Welch. He's 30 years old. Mr. Welch was convicted on June 15th of child rape for an abuse that began when the girl was 11 years old. Now, what's really disturbing about this particular case is that the mother basically allowed it. The mother let Mr. Welch sexually assault, rape this young victim. The mother then tried to cover up and protect Mr. Welch over that of her daughter. What's even more disturbing is the Department of Human Services, or the equivalent what they call it in California, knew about it and still allowed Mr. Welch access to this child when she was pregnant at the age of 12 and Mr. Welch was the father. So, reaffirming that there is in fact justice in the world, Mr. Welch received a 230-year sentence in the California penitentiary. Mr. Welch will die in prison. If not from old age, certainly from his fellow inmates, no doubt. Now, the Department of Protective Services didn't get off scot-free in this particular case. And something rarely happened. Not only did the California Department of Human Services pay to this young girl $10 million for their failure to protect this child, the head of the department, Susan Von Zabern, the director of Department of Public Social Services, left the county employment as a result of this investigation. Now, I guess she quit, and she's probably going to get her government retirement, but she should have been fired, and the social workers who were responsible for the supervision of this child and overseeing this case not only should have been fired, but they too probably should have had criminal charges filed against them. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen enough. You want to deter social workers from not protecting children, you start charging a few of them, and all of a sudden, I guarantee you, action is taken. Next on the docket is the Dumb Criminal of the Week. We have 3 contestants this week. One is unidentified, but I'm sure he will be located. Now, as always, the winner of the Dumb Criminal of the Week simply has to reach out to us and we will send them a Crime Talk mug. The winner of the Dumb Criminal of the Week can send me an email at scott@scottreisch.com with their name and address, and we will send them, at no cost to them, a Crime Talk mug. So, the first contestant, although unidentified, you know who you are. The suspect was in a McDonald's line. He did not get his Filet-O-Fish sandwich as ordered once he checked his order in the car. He became so irate and wouldn't allow the store to produce the $3.79 sandwich that he pulled forward out of the line, got out of his car, grabbed a nearby shopping cart, and started ramming the shopping cart into a completely innocent bystander's vehicle, causing some $2,000 in damage. The individual then left without his Filet-O-Fish. The only question is, did he go to another McDonald's or did he go to Chick-fil-A? Our next contestant is James Claremont, a 56-year-old man from Florida. Apparently there was a puddle in the street and some baby ducklings were floating around in the puddle. People were actually slowing down for the ducklings and letting people know, don't hit the ducklings. Well, Mr. Claremont apparently ignored the advice to protect the ducklings and accelerated and ran over the ducklings. When the police caught up to Mr. Claremont, he denied any knowledge of being advised of the ducklings, and apparently there were ducklings and feathers on his car tire and truck. Mr. Claremont was unable to explain why they were able to observe blood and duck feathers on the wheels of his truck. The final contestants today for the Dumb Criminal of the Week are actually a couple. Let's meet Kenneth Atkins and Ashley Edwards. Miss Edwards, 35, told the police that she wanted to play slave and slaver because she is African American and he is Caucasian, according to the probable cause affidavit produced by the police department. Atkins, however, apparently did not wish to participate in the proposed slave/master role play that she became verbally aggressive. During the argument that ensued, the 37-year-old Atkins allegedly spit in Edwards' face. Pairs home around 11 p.m. Atkins denied the allegations and or any other physical confrontation. Edwards, who was not injured, refused to provide cops with a sworn affidavit and that she did not want the boyfriend jailed. Atkins was arrested for misdemeanor battery and booked into the county jail, and he's released on bond. So the question becomes, who in fact is the Dumb Criminal of the Week? I think hands down it goes to Mr. Claremont, the duck killing driver. When people are warning others not to hit the baby ducklings that are in the street, best avoid it. It's simply not worth it. And everybody knows if you're abusing animals, you are capable of a lot of worse things. So, Mr. Claremont, bad decision. But you are the Dumb Criminal of the Week. So there's always something good that comes out of something bad. That's all that we have on the docket today. But I told you, we're going to continue to talk about subject matters that frankly appear on the evening news, but somehow are too graphic to discuss on YouTube, and they ultimately demonetize us. So we are considering our options. We thank you for watching Crime Talk. We thank you for subscribing. We thank you for liking the video, and we thank you for leaving a comment. Have a great day.